Hi, welcome back to the Deeper Yes. I'm so excited to spend another week with you. I've been thinking a lot about lately processing our feelings and emotion versus parking in it, staying stuck in it. And I just thought maybe we could unpack this together. It's kind of this idea of ruminating on something. And sometimes we get in this cycle or this pattern or this trap of complaining about it or venting about it. And maybe it's not always necessarily to other people. Maybe it's just within ourselves that we're doing that. And so I thought maybe it would be fun, I say that in quotes, fun, to unpack that together because it's something that I had to learn and unlearn as I was in my own journey to reclaim my health, which at the moment, at that time, I really was just thinking was my physical health, but it was also my emotional health and it was my spiritual health. And what I learned on the journey was that I was constantly telling myself the same story over and over and over again. And you know what happens when we do that? Our brain doesn't forget. It remembers, it holds on to it, becomes familiar, and it decides this is the story, this is the narrative, this is how we're living, this is our truth. And even if we are thinking that we're working towards transformation and change, if we still are having this conversation with ourselves that's on the same loop, then there really isn't change that happens or transformation that happens. And so I just feel like this might be something good for us to unpack. And here's what I want to make sure that you hear me say. I am not saying don't have the feelings or emotions. Please don't ever hear me say that. Counselor background, I'm a feeler, I'm a heart person. Those would never be words or a message that I would relay to you, the women that I care about. Have them. You're supposed to have them. And I'm gonna unpack a little bit of this by sharing my own journey a little bit. Have them, but what's really important is not to stay stuck in them. So experience them, have them. You are hardwired and designed by the Creator, the God of the universe, as a human with emotions and feelings. So you are meant to have them and experience them. But what you have to decide once you've had them, felt them, experienced them is what am I going to do with that? And I'm going to stay stuck in that. And am I going to become bitter about those feelings and emotions? Or am I going to become better? Am I going to use that as a springboard to transform, to heal, to become a better version of myself? I heard someone say once that things that happen, obstacles that happen, circumstances that happen they don't feel good, they feel like setbacks or really set ups. That was her perspective, and I loved it for what God has planned for us. So, yeah. We're going to just keep kind of unpacking this together through my own story of what do we do when we start to recognize we continue to have this pattern of having the same thoughts over and over that maybe aren't necessarily leading us towards forward motion and growth and transformation. They're actually keeping us paralyzed and stuck in whatever that thing is, those negative thought patterns. And that's what was happening with me, you guys, when I was on my journey in these last 3.5, 4 years to get better and to heal. And I was so, I'm just going to be honest, angry that I felt like my body was working against me because I was eating so well and clean and doing movement and exercise, but my body was blowing up with weight and inflammation, and I didn't recognize it. I just didn't. And I couldn't understand what was happening, and I was getting angry, and I wasn't talking very nicely to myself. Oh my goodness. If I think about that now and I reflect back on that, the way I was talking to myself and what my brain was hearing and what my body was remembering, like, oh, this is familiar, this is our narrative, were words I would never, ever say to another human being. It was awful. And yet I was praying, and I felt like I was praying and submitting and surrendering and yielding to God to bring healing into my life. But I kept playing the same narrative and loop over and over in my brain, almost like I believe, but help my unbelief, because I'm not believing that this is going to change. I'm believing I'm stuck here. I'm believing I'm angry. I'm believing my body is working against me, and I don't know why, and it makes me mad, and it makes me sad, and it makes me emotional, and it makes me feel like I don't want to be seen, and it makes me feel like I want to hide, and it makes me feel ugly, quite frankly. And so all of that stuff just kept playing in my mind. You guys, all the hard work I had done over many, many years to help create a new healthy mindset for myself and in my life that oozed out of me, all reverted back to old thought patterns and old unhealthy mindsets. And I was really becoming an unhealthy average version of myself instead of a healthy, beautiful, broken through the brick wall version of myself that I was enjoying. And so here's what I want you to think about in that for yourself, as because your story might look a little different than mine, but you might be having similar experience where the thoughts that are running through your head are not true. And so you have to stop and ask yourself, is this true? Is this real? Is this what God has breathed into me and spoken over me and created me for, my purpose, his plan? If it's not, then you know you're probably caught in this loop and cycle of not speaking nicely to yourself and staying stuck in the feelings and the emotions of it and not believing what is true. So God's word talks about taking our thoughts captive and guarding our minds and our hearts. Here's a verse that I'm going to actually pull it up so I make sure I read it correctly. I don't have it completely memorized, but a verse that I absolutely love, and I want you guys to hear it because it really speaks to this. So it's Philippians 4:8. I'm reading it to you in the NIV version, and it says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." Those things. That's my added version to that. Think about those things. Think on them. Dwell on them. If you feel like you need to ruminate on something, let it be that. Let it be thoughts that are true. And here's another thing that I've really learned in my healing. If I'm complaining and venting, I've learned to stop and ask myself, did that bring me peace? Do I feel peace now? Or do I feel agitated? Do I feel angry? Was I complaining and venting to others because I just wanted them to agree with me and I just wanted to get it all out? Or did it actually bring me peace? If it didn't bring me peace, then I'm probably ruminating, right? Here's another thing that I want you to understand and differentiate between. Lamenting is biblical. I'm going to read this to you too. Let me just get to it. So there's a difference between lamenting and looping back and forth over and over, repeating the cycle. Lamenting is something that's biblical. So that's about an honest expression of our feelings and our emotions. It's about bringing our pain, our discomfort, our sadness, our feelings into the light, into what is true. It's about going to God and talking to him about it and leaving it with him. It's about seeking comfort and truth in the midst of your pain, your sorrow, your sadness, your emotions, your feelings. Looping is just replaying over and over and over again your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, and just sort of staying, it's exactly what it sounds like, looping, staying stuck in that. That's what I call ruminating. It's rehashing things over and over and over, same idea, same principle. It's rehearsing that thing, like, this is all I know, this is what's become familiar, this is what my brain's used to hearing, and just rehearsing it over and over and over again. And it's staying stuck. I've said that a couple times as we're just chatting together, staying stuck. So what you have to decide is, am I lamenting to acknowledge my pain or my sadness or my sorrow or whatever the emotion, frustration that you're feeling? Or am I just looping this and ruminating it and staying in this cycle just so I can build a home there? Dig a ditch and stay there. Is that what you want? I don't think that's what brings us peace. I know it didn't bring me peace. It just brought me more sorrow. And I felt like I was a really slow learner, you guys. Why did it take me so long to learn this and experience? Like, what are you doing to yourself, Nancy? It's not helping you transform. It's not helping you heal. It's keeping you stuck. And if you don't want to become stuck, then what are you going to do to change it? That's what I had to keep asking myself. What are you going to do to change it? So here's what I just want to remind you. God invites you to bring to him all of your burdens forever and ever, over and over. He didn't ask you to carry them around forever and ever. He asked you to bring them to him and leave them with him. So I want to encourage you to do that. You might not be at a place in your faith that I am, but I want to encourage you to maybe explore it, because maybe that is part of the answer you've been looking for. Here's what I learned when I kept ruminating and looping, since that's what we talked about, and staying stuck in all the feels and emotions and thought patterns that weren't based in truth. It wasn't just impacting me physically, but it was definitely impacting me physically. But it was also impacting me emotionally, and it was definitely impacting me spiritually. And so I described that when I would talk to my friends, my prayer warriors, that I would ask to just help me see my blind spots and help speak truth into me and over me when I just couldn't see clearly for myself. I would describe that as being in the pit. And so it's really hard to dig and claw your way out of the pit all by yourself, because you are being impacted physically, you are being impacted emotionally, you are being impacted spiritually. And so what do you want to do about that? Sometimes you have to lock arms with other, in my case, women that had a faith like I had and believed in the one and only that could create transformation and change and improvement, and just shower me with healing and prayer and love and grace. And again, remind me, Nancy, those are not words you would ever speak to another human being. So as much as you want to give grace and love and compassion and understanding to everybody else, you need to also give it to yourself. So again, back to this idea of like taking our thoughts captive. I needed to take my thoughts captive because the scenario and the story and the narrative I was telling myself were not serving me well. They weren't serving me well at all. And so I needed to take them captive so that I could get rid of them. But what I needed to do was replace them with truth. And for me, truth is God. So God's truth. So I needed to submerge myself into God's truth, into his word. And for me, that looks like being in his word every day. I think I've shared with you guys in other episodes, I listen to the Bible being read to me when I walk every day so that I can work my way through the Bible in a year. And if I fall behind, I fall behind because I've learned to give myself grace. I'm not looking for perfection. We've talked about progress over perfection. I've listened to praise and worship music. I attend a couple Bible studies throughout the week, one that I even help lead and facilitate, and it's a tiny little group. But just knowing I have that a couple times a week keeps me grounded in the truth, in God's word, so that those thoughts that are not from him, I can recognize more readily and more quickly, and I can box them up and say, get out of here. You don't get to take root in there anymore. So again, I said this earlier, and I want you to start learning to practice this yourself. As thoughts come in that you're noticing, maybe I'm thinking of them on repeat over and over and over again, and I'm not feeling peace when I do. Start asking yourself, are they true? Start asking, are they helpful? Are they serving me well? Are they moving me forward? Or are they keeping me stuck? Are they aligned with God's truth? And instead of thinking I'm failing, let's start thinking about I'm learning. I like to say I fail forward. So I'm taking action to move forward, not to stay stuck. So you're not failing, we're learning. We're progressing. We're growing. We're stretching. And instead of thinking nothing's ever going to change, let's think about God is still at work in me. And I'm a work in progress. And I'm moving forward. And so that's what matters. And I'm going to applaud that. And I'm going to celebrate it. Okay, so I just want to remind you, feelings are super important. Please don't ever stop thinking that you're not allowed to have feelings and emotions. You are. They're super important. They provide the information you need to know what to do next and what to explore and where can I put in some work and where can I take action and how can I maybe use this as leverage to transform and to grow. And they deserve to be acknowledged. So you need to acknowledge them for yourself. I'm encouraging you to do that. But sometimes maybe you do need to have some friends or family or whoever that is that you love and you trust and you care about and you lean on to help you acknowledge them too, because sometimes we're so blind that we don't see them. And a lot of times what happens is anger comes first, but that's really just masking all the feelings and emotions that are underneath it. So sometimes someone can help us just kind of dig deeper and explore that. And I want you to think about this. Once you've allowed yourself to feel the sadness, the frustration, the disappointment, anger, whatever that is for you, then start to ask yourself. It might become like a little, you're coaching your self-discipline. It might be a healthy habit you're just trying to learn and stack, but start asking yourself, okay, what comes next? Now I have felt them and I've acknowledged them, but what comes next? What can I do next? What can I do about them? Am I going to stuff them like that's what I used to do and it didn't feel so good? Or am I going to grow from them? Am I going to learn from them? Am I going to leverage them so I can become a better version of myself? So don't forget, they're meant to be felt. Feelings are meant to be felt. But they're not meant for you to dig a ditch and stay stuck in them forever. Okay, so I want you to just think about this. I want you to think about that maybe the goal we just talked about isn't to stop feeling, but maybe it's to stop living in those feelings and staying in the pain. And like we said when I first started, parking in that pain. And maybe it's just time to allow God to do some work in your life so he can create a new chapter, a beautiful chapter, something that impacts all the people around you because they notice the improvements and the changes and the light and the peace and the joy that starts to overtake your life. And I want you to think about this. Again, you don't have to answer this right now, but there's just two questions. Well, kind of one question, but I'm going to actually ask it in two different ways that I want you to just think about. Maybe jot down an answer to, process it, put it in a comment if this touched you at all today, this episode, but just to allow it to be a stepping stone for growth. So what thought, story, struggle have you been replaying and ruminating on that may be ready for a brand new perspective? Or what burden, here's the other way to ask that, have you been carrying over and over? And it is a burden, right? It's heavy, it's weighty, that really God has just been inviting you all this time to give to him, to surrender to him, to yield to him, to leave it at his feet so that he can do the work. So just think about that. I hope this was powerful today. I hope just us having these conversations is impacting you in a big way. And if it is, please subscribe, please like, Please comment. Please consider sharing with other women that you think maybe this would resonate with them. Maybe it would touch their heart in a deep spot. Maybe it will help them to see seen and heard and loved and cared for. And thank you so much for continuing to come and listen to the Deeper Yes. Have a beautiful day.